Now, welcome to a special Versus edition of News from Naboo with Thor's Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
All right. So there was a recent interview that Jon Favreau did with the Cyber Nerds. They were talking about Mandalorian and all that good stuff. When the conversation shifted to whether Anakin Skywalker could defeat his son, Luke Skywalker, if they were to fight one another.
Actually,
it's a good debate, honestly.
They do fight each other in a from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view. But Favreau took the side of Anakin Skywalker. He said, I think it has to be Anakin, right? I mean, it has to be. He kind of, that this is his opinion if the two of them are both in their prime.
Okay.
So he's not Darth Vader yet. He is still Anakin Skywalker. He said, we saw a little bit of prime Luke with what we did. We alluded to it, but who knows what he's been off to? But Anakin has faced many more challenges. He was in his prime in a more dynamic period in Star Wars history.
Now, I'm assuming he's referring to new canon Luke, not Legends
no,
Luke.
No, he's not
talking
that is about Legends Luke.
That
Legends
is a different
Luke
discussion, I think.
I think Legends Luke destroys him.
I think it's a really good fight. But I think I give the nod to Legends Luke. When it comes to new canon, the problem is we don't really know much of new canon Luke, right? I mean, we know where he ends up.
Right.
We've seen him destroy a hallway of Dark Troopers. We've had a couple books where he's done some kind of okay things, but not a whole lot.
Right.
So we don't really have the big picture. And like, when would Luke's prime be?
It's hard to say.
Is a tough discussion because we don't have the whole story.
Would it be the Luke we saw briefly in the Star Wars Battlefront 2 storyline?
Well, that's even still kind of early, just post-Return. Like, I don't think, like, immediately post-Return of the Jedi, Luke is in his prime. I think it's going to take 10, 15 years.
Right. So we really haven't seen prime Luke.
So it's a hard debate and discussion to have because, for one, they would never fight, right? I mean, not for Rio. You would never have good Anakin Skywalker fighting good Luke Skywalker. They wouldn't be like, let's just fight to the death to see which one of us would actually win.
But what if they wanted to duel?
Well, sure. I mean, they could practice duel, but is practice dueling ever going to, yield the same results as a real life and death kind of duel? Probably not. But I mean, that doesn't mean we can't for fun.
I came into this wanting to be like, yeah, Anakin would smoke Luke, but now I'm thinking there are some things that Luke has taken into account that Prime Anakin did not. Prime Anakin, as we even saw in Kenobi, was a bit more reckless when he was dueling. He would take wild swings and you could see his passion fly in.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point. I mean, did we actually see Prime Anakin ever? Prime Anakin probably is still a couple years away from his prime. He's in his early 20s in Revenge of the Sith. He's still on the upswing, I think.
I think you're right. I think he was still growing in power, but then he had that crippling blow.
Crippling is one way to put it, yeah. I mean, Lucas has talked about this a little bit.
That took away his prime.
Yeah, exactly. He missed his prime. He became Vader. And like I said, Lucas has talked about this, that Anakin would have gone on to be more powerful than the Emperor. He would have been able to defeat Palpatine, if not for losing some limbs and getting a little torched. Mm-hmm. So he's very much implying that Anakin was, again, still on the upswing. And we also do have to keep in mind, Anakin has a lot more experience. As far as we know, again, for all we know, Luke goes to some new beyond in the new canon and fights 20, Darksiders at once and does some really cool. We don't know what they're going to do with him. We know in Legends he can certainly hold his own, right? He's a bit of a beast in Legends. So, what we see in the prequels Anakin against Legends Luke, I think that's an interesting discussion that Luke probably wins. But from what we know in the new canon, yeah, I think just at face value, Anakin does beat Luke.
Because Anakin just has the advantage.
He's got the advantage. He's got the training, too. We can't discard 10 years of Jedi training that Luke doesn't get, which was...
But even with that Jedi training, he was still rash.
He was. I'm not saying he was good, but he did get a lot of formal lightsaber training. It wasn't really until
he started leaning into the dark side, I think, that he really gained power.
Well, he had power, but I mean, that's a tough thing to say because the dark side is not like... A lightsider being powerful is not exactly the same as a darksider being powerful, right?
Right.
They have a different perception or different idea what power is. Like, lightsiders aren't like, I'm powerful now. They don't look at it that way. They're not trying to become powerful. Mm-hmm. They're trying to be one with the Force and do the right things. So it's always an interesting discussion to have, I think. But yeah, I do have to give the nod to Anakin in terms of training. It is implied that Luke did get lightsaber training on Dagobah with Yoda. I believe it's in the novelization that they do mention Yoda has a lightsaber and that there is some training. It's been a while since I read the novelization of Empire Strikes Back. Forgive me. But it is implied that Luke did train a bit with his lightsaber there. So, he does get a little bit, but not a decade of training.
Well,
against
he's
who knows.
moving into his prime. We do see him using his lightsaber against the Dark Troopers, as you've said, so he does have a lot more experience.
Yeah.
Plus, I believe in some of the comics and some of the other novels, he did find some, like, holocrons he was sparring against.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's kind of found some other things in the new canon and alternate routes of training, we'll say.
But as long as he can keep his temper in check and keep his mind clear, I think he's got a strong shot against Anakin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like it's going to be Anakin slaughtering him. I mean, Lucas has said Luke would have been extremely powerful. Some like to quote that Lucas has said he would have been the most powerful Jedi. Now, I don't remember if that's something I read or heard Lucas actually saying or something I've seen others kind of paraphrasing. I don't know that Lucas has ever said those exact words, that Luke would be the most powerful Jedi ever.
Maybe he said that before the prequels.
Well, yeah, because things have changed over the years. You'll see things he said immediately after the original trilogy or while filming it that don't kind of jive with what he says about the... So, I mean, he's changed his mind, which is fine. I'm not upset about that. Anybody's going to change their mind or the story's going to expand in that time. So yeah. But just at face value, again, I give the nod to Anakin.
I'm going to give it to Luke. Originally, I wasn't going to, but I feel like seeing him heading towards his prime in The Mandalorian, the patience, the understanding he has, the compassion.
Yeah, you got a point there.
He does have a very calmness about him that Anakin just never had.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. They would both throw their lightsabers away if they fought. I'm not fighting you, father. I'm not fighting you, son.
Right.
I mean, that would be the real way the battle would have to go. I'm more powerful because I rejected my anger and my desire to prove myself. You know, it would be something like that.
But Anakin never was able to do that, even in what we can
right.
call his prime.
Yeah.
He always had that arrogance, that little extra about him that I don't believe Luke really has, especially now that we're seeing him heading towards what would be considered his prime.
You have a point. I think if you're talking which one is the more powerful Jedi, probably Luke.
I mean, at the same age that Anakin's rejecting I don't want a Padawan, Luke is out looking for students.
Yeah. Roughly the same age. Luke is a little older at that point, but yeah, still. No, I think it's a fun discussion. It's a fun debate, and I'm curious to see what the comments will say because, again, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. We didn't see Prime Anakin.
No.
We never get to see Prime Anakin. We've yet to really see Prime Luke in the new canon. We've seen Prime Luke in Legends. So it depends on who you want to put against who. If we're putting, things go smoothly, maybe the Clone Wars are won and Palpatine is figured out and Anakin becomes a master, he gets more training, and he's, late 20s, early 30s, he's in that real stage of his life where he's at his prime, and Luke goes on to, continue to do what he's doing and kind of become more like Legends Luke. That's an interesting fight. Mm-hmm. To see those two duel each other. It probably breaks the galaxy or something because of how powerful they both are.
I mean, what we have to consider is Prime Anakin, though, was defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Ooh, you are right. Well, I mean, sub-prime, I still don't think that's Prime Anakin. He was on his way. He was close. But the Prime Anakin we see, yes, he is defeated by Kenobi, but he's also defeated by his own arrogance, which makes you wonder, do you factor that in against Luke? Does Luke use that against his father?
He doesn't have to use it against his father. Anakin uses it against himself.
Yeah, but Kenobi used, I have the high ground. Don't dare try it. Don't try it, Anakin. Don't try to jump over me so I can cut off your limbs.
Luke might do it in a more sincere fashion.
I think Obi-Wan was sincere. I don't think he wanted to cut off Anakin. He knew that if he tried it, though. I mean, did Obi-Wan bait Anakin? Did he know that by saying that, you underestimate my power, and he was going to do it, and that was going to lead to his victory? Or was he genuinely like, please don't make me do this? It's kind of curious. That's another fun question.
That is another fun question.
Like, what was his motivation at that point? To bait Anakin, or to be like, dude, I don't want to have to do this, but if you're going to try it, I'm going to take advantage of it.
And take you out.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, my final answer, if they're both in their prime, it's impossible to figure that out. It would probably be a flip of a coin type thing if they're both in their prime and have proper training and all these things. But
we have to consider that Anakin was in his prime. But
Revenge of the Sith Anakin, pre-turning to the dark side versus Mandalorian Luke, I give it to Anakin. I do.
Well, if you give it to those strict timelines, I would probably have to give it to Anakin as well. Though I think give Luke a couple more years. Let us see where he ends up, and I think he can take him.
Fair enough. I don't disagree with that.
All right, let's move on to the section I didn't do yesterday. New this week in Star Wars, etc. Today, Tuesday, we've got 2 books coming out.
2?
Yeah, we've got, well, of course, Jedi Battle Scars, the lead-in book to Jedi Survivor that'll be coming next month.
The sequel to Fallen Order and the prelude to Survivor, you could say.
Absolutely. We also have Star Wars Hunters coming out today.
Oh.
That book for the mobile game that's coming.
I forgot about that. Again.
You won't when it arrives.
Oh, God. They're both going to show up, aren't they? I'm eagerly awaiting Battle Scars.
I know
Though
you
you're
are.
probably going to read it first because I got other things to do. And you read so fast. It's ridiculous.
All right, tomorrow, of course, we have Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2. I am really excited.
I'm excited. I hope we have a slight improvement over Episode 1. Maybe not a slight, maybe a pretty significant improvement. Not that I hated the first episode.
I think the first episode, they kind of just had to go with, okay, hodgepodge together. We need some sort of a recap lead into what we're doing because of the Book of Boba Fett fiasco. I think this one will pick up and we'll move into the things we want to see.
I agree.
We also have Bad Batch, Episode 12, which I believe is going to be the crosser episode.
Which
I hope I'm right.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure it's confirmed to be the quote-unquote crosser episode.
The one that is supposed to be like the best episode of the season that people got to see so far.
Yeah, the last 2 episodes. No one has seen the last 2 episodes. Well, not nobody, but
nobody
has reviewed. No reviewers or whatever have seen the last 2 episodes. So of what people have seen and were able to review, this is widely considered the best. So tomorrow could be a hell of a day for Star Wars.
It really could. And for comics on Wednesday, we also have Bounty Hunters 32, Sana Saros number 2, and High Republic number 6.
Yay.
Yay.
More comics.
More comics.
That only a handful of people read.
Yes.
But anyway, I think that's going to be all we got for you this time. So now it's your turn to take to the comments below and weigh in on this one. Who wins the match of the century here? Anakin versus Luke. And, I mean, again, you could kind of decide where you'd place them against each other, I guess. In what time period and peak this versus peak that. Anyway, take to the comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.